So, Boris has adopted the Green New Deal, which, pretty weird, because why? So the Green New Deal was initially proposed by AOC and Senator Ed Markey, and the first vote they had on it, they got shot down 57-0. They didn't even vote for their own bill. And this was because at the time there was a massive amount of bad press, because I think it was AOC had leaked a document where she was proposing banning all cows and banning air travel, so you'd have to get a train to Hawaii, which... yeah, understandable why you wouldn't want to bag that. And this has sort of bumbled around within left-wing circles to the point that it's not even... even with Joe Biden adopting the far left, he didn't want to adopt this wholesale. So it only is mentioned once in his manifesto. And even then, he only mentions it to say, we're going to pledge net zero by 2050. And this should have stayed an American thing, but instead this has somehow come across to the UK. First, within the Labour Party, they named themselves Labour for a Green New Deal. So... yeah, they're taking the American phrase New Deal in Green New Deal and using it for British politics. Non-surprisingly, people didn't like this. It sounds weird, it sounds American, why are you importing it? So the Labour Party renamed it within the manifesto to the Green Industrial Revolution to make it sound more British, which, in fairness, it does. And then Boris came out yesterday and announced his 10-step plan for the Green Industrial Revolution, which... unsurprisingly, weirded out a lot of conservatives because who was voting for this? I mean, it was literally in the Labour Party manifesto as a huge section. This wasn't a huge part of the campaign for the Conservatives or Boris's team. And to my surprise, yes, apparently we did vote for this. It is in the manifesto. I'll put it somewhere on screen where you can see him mentioning the Green Industrial Revolution. And he lists a bunch of points, but none of them are really that radical, or at least comparing to what he's now proposing, because I think it's about 5 out of 10 you can say are in the manifesto, because everything's a bit ambiguous, nothing's really pinned down. And the biggest one being that he's going to ban cars by a reasonable date, I think is the wording. And originally that was meant to be 2040, and then it got brought down to 2035, and now 2030, which is what he announced yesterday and the Conservatives put out on Twitter. But if you look at the Labour Party manifesto, you'll notice that 9 out of the 10 proposals are from the Labour Party manifesto. And this isn't uncommon or unreasonable, I think. If your party thinks this idea is good, therefore you would adopt it from an opposing party's manifesto. But it is embarrassing that not only have you stolen the name and also stolen all the policies, it shows like a clear link from how we get from leftist nonsense into the Conservative Party, where it just trickles through nonsense in America and eventually through the Labour Party and then adopted by the Conservative Party. The question is obviously, do you agree with this or not? Now, I'm not a climate expert. I'm not going to pretend to be. I'm not going to waste your time on it. If you want someone to evaluate whether or not these claims are a good idea or not, that's not me. But what I can say is it looks embarrassing. I mean, you stole the name wholesale and then 9 out of 10 of the policies. And the only policy that he hasn't stolen from the Labour Party is this really weird one, or perhaps the most ambitious, is how they try and spin it, which is that he wants zero-emission planes and ships. I assume this is about cargo ships and transport planes to transport people to the US, and so far not tiny planes or tiny ships. In which case, how? Like, I was thinking this has to be, complete nonsense, and it kind of is. As in, it's possible, theoretically, it seems. People are proposing that you could use hydrogen to power the planes and the ships, and maybe sails for ships. There's some really good concept art, I'll put it on screen. But that's the point. It's still in the fan art section at the moment. So to get that done within 10 years, it's not going to happen. Or at least it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And the response to this has been also pretty funny, because there are a lot of memes going around now, particularly within the Labour Party and Tory Party, little online groups, because... yeah, this just looks like you stole it wholesale, and the Labour Party are understandably kind of annoyed that Boris has just outright stolen their policies. In fact, they're now kind of annoyed that they don't know what to do in response, because if you're meant to be the greener party, well, what's Keir Starmer going to pledge that's more radical than this? Well, he's not pledging anything, is he? And the Tories are equally understandably annoyed, because it seems like Carrie Symonds, Boris Johnson's girlfriend, is the one responsible for pushing climate change to the top of the agenda. But either way, who voting Conservative was putting that X in the box and putting the ballot in the ballot box because they really cared about climate? I mean, the people who really cared about climate were voting Green or Labour, surely. Like, the people who voted for Boris were not thinking of this, or at least I wasn't, or anyone I know who's Conservative wasn't, at least when casting their ballot. So if I had to make a guess about why he's doing this, I would guess that it has to be him looking at foreign polling. So in Germany, for example, the Green Party peaked at 27% polling this year, and are now back down to about 17%. But if you can get the Green Party skyrocketing like that in the UK, it could completely mess up British politics. So maybe he's trying to cut them off at the pass, and it seems to have worked, because you can see the interviews the Green Party are giving subsequently, where they're like, oh, well, what are we going to campaign on now? Like, he's doing everything we want. Anyway, that's about all the info going on with that, but as more stuff comes out, we'll make more videos and try and update people. Thank you for watching.